shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Very good morning. I am Dr. A. Ravi, Senior Coordinator IKC Surgery. On behalf of the Chancellor V.R.V. Venkatachalam, Pro-Chancellor V.R.V. Sengutuvan, faculties and students of Sri Ramakrishna Institute of Higher Education, I warmly welcome the speakers and the panelists of the webinar on National Educational Policy 2020 for Higher Education. Dr. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General of the Association of Universities, Lieutenant General M. Venkatesh, Vice Chancellor Mahan, former Vice Chancellor Mumbai University, Dr. Vijay Kole, Dr. P.V. Vijayaraghavan, Vice Chancellor Srihar, University, and Professor S.P. Tyagarajan, Dean Research, and Professor Emeritus, and the enthusiastic participants, many of whom have already sent the questions. This is the fourth webinar by IKC at national level for higher education. We'll start the program with the Sri Ramakrishna University and before we start the program, a few words about Ramchandra University, the Ramchandra Institute of Higher Education Research. The Ramchandra Institute of Higher Education Research was started way back in 1985 at Sri Ramchandra Medical College by Ayya and Ramaswamy Villayar, and has a rich legacy and a global visibility and reputation with alumni spread across the globe. It has got 12 faculties: medicine, dental, pharmacy, allied health science, nursing, management, BSc Honors Sports and Exercise Sciences, BSc MS Research, and BTech Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning. Srihar, with its dynamic IPSC, was awarded A grade by NAAC in its second cycle with a CGPA of 3.62 out of 4 in 2014. Which is a graded Srihar under the category of university, under the category 1 university in the year 2018. In the NIF ranking 20, this is a secure 28th rank among 3,770 institutions which has participated. Medical 30, dental 7, and pharmacy 20. Ranked 5th among universities by Swachhta ranking 2018 for clean, hygienic, and green campus by MHRD, Government of India. Medical education unit of Srihar has been established in the year 2015. Recognized as the Regional Center of Medical Council of India for basic workshop in medical education technologies, and one of the 10 centers throughout India offering advanced course of faculty development. It has got e-learning facilities as FreeHeart with learning management system, blended learning, classroom, video lectures, virtual Swayamprabha studio, gamification of learning, and ICT and engineering lecture series. Ramchandra has 70,000 healthcare professionals who are spread all over India as well as excellence in every aspect. ICMR recognized center for advanced research in air quality, climate and health in the Faculty of Public Health. UNESCO identified here as the biodiversity center in India, and Atomic Energy Regulatory Body accredited biodiversity laboratory in the Department of Human Genetics in the Faculty of Medical Sciences. WHO designated collaborating center in the Faculty of Public Health for research and training in environmental and occupational health continuously for the last 15 years. About research facilities, a DSIR recognized central research facility, an ISO certified Ramchandra Innovation and Incubation Center granted the Government of India Fire and Biomass Incubator. 11 disciplines dedicated centers in research are available in research facility. Center for Toxicology and Developmental Research as institutional animal facility is GLP accredited by National Good Laboratory Practice Compliance Monitoring Authority, Government of India. The healthcare facility, Sri Ramchandra Hospital and Medical Center has 2,313 beds, state-of-the-art infrastructure. Center for Healthcare Quality and Patient Safety, the fulcrum of teaching, learning, and research. And it is also recognized and accredited by JCA, NAPH, and our laboratory is accredited by NAPH. Ramchandra Medical Center, the Radiology Department of Radiology, has been given silver certification by European Society of Radiology. Ramchandra Medical Center has, for a rare life-threatening vascular malformation liver, using interventional radiology approach, has done a procedure, perhaps for the first time not reported in medical journals. Sri Ramchandra Department of Plastic Surgery has done more than 15,000 plastic and palate surgery in all walks of life. Ramchandra is also involved in treating COVID patients and also involved in the national level in the vaccine trial. Bharat Biotech sponsored Covaxin vaccine trial. Whole virus inactivated SARS-CoV-2 vaccine trial in human volunteers launched at Sri Ramchandra Hospital. And also, ICMR sponsored COVID-19 vaccine trial by the Serum Institute of India, Oxford University, AstraZeneca COVID-19 virus vector vaccine trial in healthy population launched at the Ramchandra Medical Center. We go on to the program today. We'll have the inauguration by our Vice Chancellor, V.R.B. Venkatachala, and followed by National Education Policy 2020 by Dr. Pankaj Mital, Secretary General Association of Indian University, between 11:45 to 12:15 p.m. Holistic Education and Academic Credit Bank, Professor S.P. Tyagarajan, Professor of Eminence and Dean Research, between 12:15 to 12:40 p.m. and National Education Policy and Medical Education by Lieutenant General Dr. M.T. Venkatesh, Vice Chancellor, Manipal Academy of Higher Education, between 12:40 and 12:50 p.m. Followed by panel discussion. Will be joined by Dr. Vice Chancellor Srigar on health and education, Dr. Vijay Kole, former Vice Chancellor Mumbai University on general education, and Dr. Conal Samuel, Vice Chancellor Elder Institute of Technology on technical education, and other people also will join to the panel. We'll go on with the inaugural address by our Chancellor, which is led by our Vice Chancellor.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. Let me at the outset apologize that our Chancellor, due to certain unavoidable circumstances, could not be present for this webinar. I, on behalf of him, will read out the message that he has sent out. He brings greetings from Sri Ramachandra University for a safe and healthy life to all the participants, to all the resource persons, to everybody concerned in the country in this COVID-19 times. I am extremely thankful to and honored to have Dr. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary of the Association of Indian Universities, Dr. M.D. Venkatesh from Manipal University, the Vice Chancellor of Manipal University, Dr. Anand Samuel from the Vice Chancellor of the Vellore Institute of Technology, Dr. Vijay Kole, former Vice Chancellor of the University of Mumbai, Professor S.P. Tyagarajan, and our own Vice Chancellor, Professor P.V. Vijayaraghavan. I warmly welcome all the registered participants for this particular webinar organized by our dynamic internal quality assessment cell led by Dr. A. Ravi. As a Category 1 deemed university with a NAAC score of 3.62 upon 4, I am very happy to state that Sri Ramachandra has been into online education for the last few years with a great development of e-content and e-resource development. And we have also set up a studio for and our own Moodle platform for online education for our students, which can also be used by other students across the country. I am also happy to state that Sri Ramachandra has always participated with a lot of government initiatives, particularly by the University Grants Commission and the Ministry of HRD and the Ministry of Health, as we have also set up the NPTEL Swayam Prabha studio in collaboration with IIT Madras. During this changed educational atmosphere in our country, we are on the online education for undergraduate, postgraduate, and PhD education of all our students. In addition to regular online classes and clinics, we have conducted more than 85 webinars during the last 3 months on the cutting-edge area of education, and IQAC itself has taken upon itself to organize all these webinars, and 4 of them entirely through the effort of IQAC. Some of them were also on major quality programs and on policy reports of national and international organizations. And I'm very happy that the thing which has been approved by the cabinet on the national education policy is being discussed today. It is very timely to be deliberated upon, and India's leading experts in this area are all here to be participating in this particular webinar. I am extremely happy to formally inaugurate this webinar. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll go on with the first speaker of the day, Dr. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General, Association of Indian Universities, on the topic National Education Policy. Let me introduce Dr. Pankaj Mittal. Dr. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General, Association of Indian Universities, is the second woman Secretary General of the Association with 95 years of existence. She is a Fulbright scholar and has been a topper in MLC and PhD in agricultural statistics from IARI in New Delhi. Former Vice Chancellor Bhagat Phool Singh Mahila Vishwavidyalaya, Kanpur, Haryana. Among the awards and honors, she had the President of India Award 2017 for digital initiatives in higher education, honorary doctorate D.Litt honoris causa from Karnataka State Women's University, Bijapur, Karnataka. First, Padma Shri Subhashini Devi Award 2018 for contribution in societal development and community engagement for the Chief Minister of Haryana. Quimpro Gold Standard Award for Leadership in Education for the year 2018. And Dr. Mittal has served as a member of various high power committees and professional bodies, including program advisory group, HR and networking steering committee on human resource management of Association of Commonwealth Universities. Now I welcome Professor Pankaj Mittal, delivering a lecture.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the generous introduction. And am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And first of all, I would like to thank Professor
Any slides you
Thiagarajan.
are-
Sorry,
Are you going to share any slides?
I am audible.
Are you going
You
to
are
share any
audible, madam.
audible?
I think we have to request everybody to mute their mics, otherwise there's a lot of echo in the voice.
Yes,
If everybody can mute their mics, the echo will be less. So first of all, I would like to thank Professor Thiagarajan and Sri Ramachandra University for inviting me here and giving me an opportunity to be a part of this very eloquent panel. I mean, the people here are so big people, and my thanks to Ramachandra and my pranam to all the panelists. And a very good morning to all the people who are listening to this webinar. Now, this national education policy, which was long awaited, I mean, we were waiting for it for last almost 4-5 years. And I think more time was taken just because the consultative process was too big in this. I don't think never in our history of higher education we had a policy in which the consultation has been taken by something like 2 lakh people. There were 2 lakh, more than 2 lakh responses, and that too not only from educationists but from all walks of life, including till panchayat level and district administration. So this type of consultation does take time, and eventually the policy which has come is very, very crisp, very forward looking, and sometimes I feel it is like a fairy tale that we keep on thinking whether everything we'll be able to get or not. It is so forward looking. We feel that yes, if all this happen, but I think it can happen, and that depends upon the implementation of the policy, but the policy is really good. So coming to the salient features of the policy, first of all, initially, I mean, everybody was wanting that the name of the Ministry of Human Resource Development should be changed to Ministry of Education, and that has been fulfilled in this policy. So now we will be going to Ministry of Education, not Ministry of Human Resource Development. And it has also reiterated the goal which was set in the Kothari Commission of spending 6% of the GDP on the education. Although the country is trying very hard, but still right now also it is around 4.5% of the GDP is spent on education. But the policy is reiterating that they will spend 6% of GDP on education. And if this happens, this single reform itself will bring a lot of quality changes in the field of education. But the reforms in the policy are much more than that. For example, first I should say that the policy is a student-centric policy, because student is the king in this policy. When I say student is the king, that means student has the option to choose any subject. Student has the option to choose the time frame in which he or she wants to finish the degree. Student is having the option to do multiple entry, multiple exit. Student is even given the option to choose the university, and it could be multiple universities also. So student is the king in this particular policy, and a lot of facilities have been given, because when we talk of general education, till now we were having a 3-year degree program. Now we will be having a 4-year degree program, and then with 4-year degree program also, till now, if suppose somebody does first year of graduation or second year of graduation, and he or she has to leave due to any reason, there were two repercussions. One was that the person could not come back to education, and the second was that he or she did not get any degree, any certificate, any proof that they have passed first or the second year. So in this policy, for the first time, they have said that there will be multiple entry and exit option. That will mean that a student can enter the university. Maybe he completes first year, he has something, he can go back, he'll get a certificate. After 2 years, he gets a diploma. After 3 years, he gets an advanced diploma. And after 4 years, he gets a full-fledged degree. So after every stage of completion, he gets something And with that certificate, the value of that certificate will be that one, he can sort of get employment based on that certificate wherever that particular level of knowledge is required. And second is, with that certificate, he can come back into the higher education system, and not only in the university from where he completed first year, he can go to any university. That type of freedom was never there, that he can go to any university and take admission in second year, third year, fourth year. So that freedom is there. And then apart from that, something on which me and Dr. Tyagarajan both are working, that is ABC. I mean, ABC, people feel it is, we are talking about the alphabets ABC, but it is Academic Bank of Credit. So when we speak of Academic Bank of Credit, that is another level of freedom given to the student. That is the most innovative part of this policy. If you ask me, I'll say that is the most innovative part of this policy. And this type of freedom is not even existing in many foreign countries. So what is ABC? ABC is that like you have a bank in which you deposit the money. In this bank, you deposit the credits. This is an academic bank of credit. So every student will have an account. We have to request everybody to please put it on the mute mode, please. Otherwise, there will be so much of disturbance. If the host is there and if the host can mute everybody, that will be better.
Yes, madam. It's muted already.
Okay. So, like in a bank, you deposit the money. In this bank, you deposit the credit. So, every student will be an account holder in the academic credit bank. And how will they accumulate the credits? Like right now, we get admission in a program, but when this policy becomes a reality, then in addition to the program, you can also get admission in different courses. Courses, if some of you are getting some confusion with regard to courses, I'll say, suppose BSc is a 3-year program. So BSc itself is a program, but different papers within BSc, suppose BSc has 16 papers. So each paper is a course. So that means that in future, the admission will be there in addition to the programs. I mean, you can take admission in full BSc program, but you also can take admission in a particular course, means in a particular paper. So for the full BSc, you can decide to do 10 papers or 10 courses from one university, 5 from some other university, 3 from some other university. So there can be multiple universities. And once you collect, and each course will be of some particular credit, like 3, 4, 5, 6 credits. So those many credits will be deposited in the bank against your account. And once you have sufficient number of credits, you can go with those credits to a university from where you got the maximum number of credits. They can give you a degree, and then those many credits which were used for awarding the degree, they will be debited from your account. Like when you take out money from your account, the money is debited from your account. Similarly, when you take out credits from the account to get a degree, the credits will be debited from your account. And each credit will also have a shelf life. Sunset clause will be there for every credit, and the sunset clause or the validity of every credit will also depend upon the course in which the credit has been earned. For example, the courses in history can be having a longer shelf life because history doesn't change that often, but the courses in maybe computers or AI or any advanced technology, they can be having a shorter shelf life because they can be changed very fast. So this type of facility has been created so that the student can have best knowledge from any university of his or her choice and then accumulate and get a degree also. This is one very important thing. And another important thing is that now our universities can go and establish campuses abroad, and top 100 foreign universities can come and establish campuses in India. Now, how this will benefit India is, suppose with regard to foreign campuses, right now, when we talk of students who are coming to India and the students who are going out of India for studying abroad, the difference is 10 to 100. That means right now around 46,000 people or students are coming to India for studying, but from India, around 7 to 8 lakhs are going every year for studying abroad. So a lot of foreign exchange is going out. So once the foreign universities establish their campuses in India, many of our students will not go out and they will have the same experience in India while studying in the foreign university campuses. Second, maybe from the neighboring countries, the students who want to have foreign degree, say of USA university or UK university, and they find it difficult to go that far, and it is more expensive also to go that far. So maybe for a foreign university degree also they can come to India on their Indian campuses and get a degree. So inbound students in India will increase. So that will increase our revenue also. And thirdly, it will help us in improving the collaborations between the Indian and the foreign universities, because now the collaboration will be easier. The foreign teachers can teach our students also, our students can also teach the foreign students. And fourth will be the competition will increase, so that healthy competition can lead to improvement in the quality also. So this again will be a very, very good step through in the policy through which we are going to have better quality of higher education and better number of inbound students, inbound foreign students in our country. Apart from that, I will not be speaking about every aspect of policy because that will be too long. I will just limit my talk to certain things only. One more important thing which is revolutionary is that I'll only talk about two more things. One is revolutionary is that in future we will not be having affiliated colleges. So the system of affiliating universities, which was existing in, I think in India only now, because it was a British legacy, and British itself, when they went back, they dismantled the affiliation system. But in India, it was still continuing. So the affiliation system will go away, and all the colleges which are right now affiliated to universities will come under autonomous colleges category with the power to award their own degrees. So it will be a graded autonomy thing in which every college, depending upon their capacity to absorb the autonomy, the graded autonomy will be given, and slowly, when they become autonomous, they will be given degree awarding power, and they will be de-affiliated from the university. And then we will be having three types of degree awarding institutions. Two will be universities, and two universities also, they have been bifurcated into two parts. One is research intensive university, where more research and less of teaching will be there. Second is teaching intensive university, where more of teaching, less of research will be there. And third will be only teaching institutions, which will be autonomous degree awarding colleges. So these three types of institutions will be there. And especially the deemed universities would be happy that in past there were too many objections that whether to use the word university or not. So the policy says that everybody is a university. Every university, whether it is central, state, deemed, every university is a university per se. And then I think everybody can use the word university. Last, which I will talk about, is the structural reforms at the government level, at the higher level. So UGC, which is my parent office, they have, the policy feels that the UGC is right now doing almost all the functions, that is regulatory functions, funding, and through NAC accreditation also. So now the policy feels that these functions should be sort of segregated, plus the duplication of authority and duplication of work should be avoided. So for that, they are recommending a organization, umbrella organization called Higher Education Commission of India. Under that, there will be 4 different councils. One will be Higher Education Grant Council, which will only do the thinking of giving grants to the higher education institution, no regulation. Second will be National Higher Education Regulatory Authority. They will only do the regulation, no grant giving work. Third will be National Accreditation Council, which I think will submerge within themselves. I mean, that will merge within themselves NAC as well as National Board of Accreditation. And maybe the multiple accreditation agencies concept will be floated, and they can be sort of allowing more institutions to do the accreditation in addition to NAC and NBA. And the fourth agency is the National Graduate, and I mean that will be called GEC, that is General Education Council, which will be doing the national qualification framework as well as the graduate aptitudes and the learning outcomes. So these will be the 4 agencies. And apart from that, the councils which are there, they will be converted into professional standard setting bodies, because like for medical, the requirement is of for practicing a license is required. So those professional standard setting bodies will be the bodies which will decide that what is required for giving a license to practice. So they will be working in that manner. And one important field in the one important recommendation for the in the field of medical education is that instead of having allopathy, Ayurvedic, homeopathy, Siddha, Unani as separate units, this policy believes in the integrative medical approach. So a person who is doing MBBS will also learn Ayurveda, homeopathy, Siddha. The person who is doing Ayurveda will also learn allopathy and all these things. So every doctor should be able to use whichever uh, branch of medicine is best suited for the patient. So they will have a little knowledge of every field, and maybe the main knowledge will be wherever that person is enrolled. If he is enrolled in allopathy, main knowledge will be that, but then he will be given the knowledge of every discipline so that the integrative medicine can be practiced. So I think I will stop with this, and I will thank Dr. Tyagarajan and Ramachandra University once again for inviting me here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam, for an enlightenment on the new education policy 2020. We'll go on to the next speaker, Professor Dr. S.P. Tyagarajan. Dr. S.P. Tyagarajan is a professor of eminence and Dean Research here and former Vice Chancellor, University of Madras. And is a DSc in microbiology and has several fellowship titles, including National Academy of Sciences and National Academy of Medical Sciences. Member of several expert committees of UGC, ICMR, DST, DBT, DOD, NAC, Ministry of Health, and WHO, and is the inventor of a drug for the treatment of hepatitis B from Phyllanthus amaris, and secured national and international patents and 3 more patents under his credit. Now I request Professor S.P. Tyagarajan to deliver his lecture. S.P. sir?
Sir, I think you are mute. You are on mute. You have to unmute yourself.
And sir, you have to unmute, sir. Yes, sir. Your voice is not heard, sir. SPT, sir, your voice is not heard.
I think Ravi, as an organizer, you might have unmuted everybody, so you may have to.
No, sir.
Remove.
I have not unmuted anybody, sir.
Now it is all right. Now
Yes,
I hope you are able to see me. Thank you. Are you able to see the slides,
Yes,
please?
sir. You are able to see your slide, sir.
Okay, thank you. I thank Dr. Pankaj Mittal for having made my job very, very easy, because she has given so eloquently and a simplified way how the national education policy is unique for the country after so many years. I am only going to take one of the chapter of this particular national education policy to deliberate in depth on that, so that we will be able to understand the principle and philosophy of this. As it has been highlighted by Madam Pankaj Mittal, there are around 12 different chapters in the section of higher education, whereas the whole policy has got about 26 different chapters. So among these 12 different chapters that are dealt with in detail in this policy document, chapter 11 talks on holistic education, which is the theme of the entire reform that has been formulated in this particular policy. Because of this particular holistic education, the main thrust and expectation is that the gross enrollment ratio in higher education for India will be elevated to 50% by 2035 from today's 26.8% as a national average. There may be variation between the various states, but the national average today is 26.8%, and that will be increased to 50% in the age group of 16 to 23, so that we become an allied society of educationalists in the country. So how do you get this? This kind of a main theme or the major reforms that are going to come through are because of holistic and multidisciplinary education, because of the flexibility of the subjects, flexibility of the period, and flexibility of the institutions from where you may be able to get. I will not elaborate on this because Madam has said about the multiple entry exit, and you can have a UG program for 3 years or 4 years. A PG program also can be for 1 year for 4-year undergraduate students and 2 years for the 3-year undergraduate students, and an integrated bachelor master's course also will be available. One big reform that has brought in is discontinuation of the MPhil program that is going to be there. As it has been highlighted, the credit transfer and the academic bank of credits is a center point or the pivotal point that is going to be introduced in this particular thing. And in order to see how the holistic reforms can be really implemented in the country, the government itself is going to establish model multidisciplinary education and research universities called as MERU. So this is going to set up as a role model universities for all the others, from the single discipline universities to evolve as multidisciplinary universities, and the so-called multidisciplinary universities to evolve in a holistic fashion to offer the holistic education or multidisciplinary education. These MERU universities are going to help. So I will just elaborate on them. What is the need for the holistic education? Why it should be done? It is believed that a comprehensive holistic arts education will develop all capacities of human beings, which will include intellectual, aesthetic, social, physical, emotional, and moral in an integrated manner, so that any student is able to get a well-rounded kind of capacity which is required for the 21st century capacities to come in. And so this holistic education in the long term is expected that the approach of all the undergraduate programs, including those in professional, technical, and vocational disciplines, will bring in the holistic concept into them. It is not only that developing curricula and programs, educational programs, it will also be applied for assessment of educational approaches in undergraduate education, which will integrate humanities and arts with STEM, science, technology, environment, and medicine. And this, by doing this, it has been shown in many other countries that it has showed positive learning outcome. We have seen in other countries, even some of our own students going in and taking credits from any other university and any other institution or even any other country. So this is in fact exactly what is being projected here in a much more elaborated manner, so that will provide increased creativity, innovation, critical thinking, and higher order thinking capacities for our students with problem solving abilities, teamwork, communication skills, and more in-depth learning and mastery of the curricula in the field, so that they will be able to really contribute even in research, because this holistic education approach will improve the quality of the research deliverables. Instead of research being in the cupboard, research will come to the society. So for this purpose, this is what is being made as a flexible curricular structures, which will have creative combinations of the disciplines of study that would be done even at the graduate level, as well as master's and doctoral education, which will provide them the research-based specializations as well as for opportunities of multidisciplinary research, which will also be provided in partnership with academia, industry, as well as the government. The government will also be able to participate in that. In order to bring about this cultural change, we have to have two things. One, large multidisciplinary universities and colleges, and 2, flexibility in curriculum and novel and engaging course options which are to be officially offered to the students in addition to whatever the specializations of the core area or subject they are going to do. This will be provided by means of faculty autonomy as well as institutional autonomy in setting up the curricula, developing pedagogy, and also significantly bring down the rote learning practices and increase the emphasis on communication, discussion, debate, research, and opportunities for cross-disciplinary and multidisciplinary thinking, which will pave the way for interdisciplinary learning. That is what is being thought about it. In such an instance, it was also felt that a cross-disciplinary kind of a knowledge imparting methodologies has to be done, cutting across languages, literature, music, philosophy, art, dance, theater, education, mathematics, statistics, pure and applied sciences, etc. So they will be having this kind of a stimulating Indian education that will be established and which will be strengthened across the higher education institutions of the country. In this, it is also made it important that there will be credit-based courses and projects which will be available to them in all the value-based educational areas. So this will be also included in order to see that certain humanistic kind of qualities are imparted to the students, which may be truth, peace, non-violence, and other kind of citizenship values and life skills that are needed for an individual to become a kind of a seva and service-minded kind of a citizen of this country. So in doing this, so far we have been talking that internship means it is only for science students or for engineering and technology students. That is the mental framework that we have. But to this policy, as a part of the holistic education, students are to be provided opportunities for internship in all areas, in all the disciplines of higher education, so that they will be able to understand the reality of the knowledge that is imparted to them, which means these appropriate to the discipline they are working on. They may have internship with the local industry or the business sectors or in the artist sector or in the crafts division or in villages or local communities and any other agricultural locations and so on, so that these research internship in addition will help them to make them as creators and innovators besides the kind of the higher education institution, Harvard kind of internship programs. So it is to be taken that the students will have to actively engage with the practical side of their learning, whatever be the discipline, and as a byproduct, they will improve their employability, which may include self-employability as well, or becoming an entrepreneur or a startup. That is the kind of the aim with which this kind of expansion has been taken place. How do you do this? If you want to do this, you have to have a flexible model. We have been having an undergraduate degree of 3-year duration, but now it will have an option of either 3 years or 4-year duration with multiple exit option within this period. I will not elaborate further. Madam has already said, with except for one thing, that the 4th-year student, 4-year duration undergraduate program will lead to a degree with research component of 1 more year. Whereas if the student obtains a diploma after completing 1 year, an advanced diploma in the discipline or field or in a vocational or professional area after completing 2 years of studies, and a bachelor degree after 3-year program, the 4-year bachelor program with multidisciplinary education will allow them even to go for PhD and that will facilitate them in the duration of the postgraduate program. If they have a 4-year duration undergraduate degree, their master's degree will be only for 1 year. Whereas if they do a 3-year undergraduate degree, the master's program will be for 2 years. How do you facilitate these kind of flexible models? And that is where, as Madam Pankaj Mittal has highlighted, the Academic Bank of Credit scheme has been introduced, which would be digitally storing the academic credits earned from various recognized higher education institutions, so that the degrees from the higher education institutions can be awarded taking into account credits that are earned. So as I told you, there is a flexibility of the master's program as well. 2-year program for a 3-year bachelor program and 1-year master's program for a 4-year BSc program or a bachelor program, and an integrated 5-year bachelor master's program. As I have already told you, MPhil program has been discontinued. The multidisciplinary education and research universities will be similar to that of IITs and IIM. This will be model public universities for holistic education that would be established by the Government of India, Ministry of Education. So let me just take you through the other kind of issues that are also being projected. Since education is a concurrent subject, the policy itself provides that the states will have the flexibility to decide on the medium of instruction, and they will be encouraged to conduct more academic programs in Indian languages or the mother tongue, whatever that may be there. One more major thrust in the policy that is given and which is encouraged by the multidisciplinary education is the focus on research and innovation. There will be facilities and support for setting up startup incubation centers across the higher education institutions, technology development centers, centers for frontier areas of research, greater industry academia linkages, and interdisciplinary research, which will be a facilitating platform for the innovative potentials of the student to create for creativity and bringing about products and processes of societal value. So this is where the Academic Bank of Credits has come into being. In fact, thanks to the University Grants Commission, which has taken a proactive effort to see that this Academic Bank of Credit is taken on a fast-track methodology by bringing about a UGC regulation, along with Madam Dr. Pankaj Mittal, myself, and 8 other experts have been put onto this committee to develop this model regulations, which will go in for consultation of the stakeholders, as well as for the regulation to be notified through a gazette notification. Essentially, as I told you, this is a credit transfer mechanism as a regulatory provision across the country, across the institution, to have flexibility of curriculum framework and horizontal academic mobility of students across the higher education institutions in the country. That is where this is going to help in a very big way. Just to define this Academic Bank of Credit is an academic service provider as a digital, virtual, online entity as a special purpose vehicle established and managed by the Ministry of Education now, as it is to be called, and the University Grants Commission, to facilitate all students of the specified higher education institutions to become its academic account holders. As Madam very nicely put it, each student can have an academic account in this ABC to allow distributed learning systems by creating a seamless student mobility within inter and intra-university system through a formal system of credit recognition, credit accumulation, credit transfers, and credit redemption. So these are the various activities of the Academic Bank of Credit, which will be functioning after the regulation has been promulgated. So there are several objectives I would not go into the details of them, except to tell you that student centricity with learner-friendly approach is the crux of this ABC, wherein students can select the best courses or combination of courses to suit their aptitude and knowledge thirst. And they can also select the best departments or institutions or combination of institutions across the country for guidance and support mechanism. It will also support the students and permit the student to choose a pace for their study. If some of the students are not able to finish it within the limited period or stipulated period, they can choose their own pace of studying and associated logistics can be developed. And then this also allows the student to tailor their degrees according to their specific modification and specialization they want to do, instead of a rigidity in curriculum that is normally available now in a single university or an affiliate of autonomous college. And that is how the multiple entry and multiple exit stream options will be available for them to take a degree as a whole, either 3 years or 4 years, or take a diploma after 1 year, PG diploma, certificate program, etc., appropriate period of time. So this will increase the mobility of the students academically across the institution, which will facilitate lifelong learning for the students, both by full-time mode as well as part-time mode. And this will satisfy the students' quest for knowledge, and that will be the building blocks for their future dreams in higher education and in their career. So these are some of the functions of the Academic Bank of Credit. The ABC shall accept credits awarded by approved higher education institutions for courses and programs where the usual definition for 1 credit will be applied for. As all of us know, 1 credit means the standard methodology of calculating 1 hour of theory, 1 hour of tutorial, 2 hours of laboratory work or field work or industry internship or project work per week for a duration of 15 weeks. So if this generalized kind of interoperability is being followed, any institution that the specification will be the same. And ABC will have a major function of credit verification that is being acquired by the student from X institution and accumulate the credit that has been deposited into the ABC, and then it will also transfer the credit to the needy institution as per the desire of the students, who can redeem these credits for a degree or any other kind of educational qualification. It will also authenticate the degree that the student is able to get from an institution. And finally, it will also be operating the opening, closure, and validation of the academic accounts of the students. The courses that the students can go through need not be only in the various higher education institutions. They can also undergo the courses through the national schemes like SWAYAM, NPTEL, etc. And those credits will also be intertransferable between the institutions. So I will only try to summarize and say that the norms of implementing this will be decided by the parent universities and autonomous colleges, because the academic bodies of the institution should also concur with the methodology and the norms and guidelines that used to be taken in. And what is important is there needs to be an amalgamation of not only the existing kind of models, but also the futuristic models envisaged in this particular national education policy, and to bring in the philosophy of holistic and multidisciplinary education. So this is one more thing, as it has been said, is the credits acquired under the ABC scheme is flexibly kept in the account of the students to as long as 8 years, depending upon the type of the discipline and the type of the courses that they are able to do. And when you do such a flexible model, there is also a need for monitoring and quality assurance of this particular ABC by the concerned universities. That shall be rest with the university is concerned, they will have to put in some training programs, the teacher training and staff training, mentoring, academic and administrative audit, and other measures for improving the quality performance of the ABC. Then only the development operationalization of the ABC program can be successfully done. This is a responsibility of the host institution, and ABC will also facilitate the type of the program that are to be offered through this. And if you have to have a quality assurance mechanism of the ABC scheme implementation, this will be one of the functions of the internal quality assurance cells of the respective institutions, because these IQACs will be present in all the approved institutions. One of the stipulation for becoming eligible to offer or register with ABC is that the institution should have got an A grade by MAC accreditation or a similar grade when any other new body of accreditation is going to come into the country. So they would always have an assurance, quality assurance cell, and they will look into the quality assurance of the ABC scheme as well. So then one more important thing is, whatever they do through the ABC, they have to be uploaded in the institutional website, and also the annual reports that are going to be submitted will have to be done. So as it has been said and being talked about at various fora, people talk about implementation. In fact, there is a chapter on implementation that has been given in the policy document itself, which I am not going to elaborate. Madam has touched upon it. But what is important is to remember Honorable Prime Minister address in the UGC National Conclave that recently happened on the 6th August 2020, which was widely participated by so many educationists and students across the country. I will quote only two sentences. The new world order and global standard is emerging. To sync our changes with that is also important. While we have to make our students global citizens, we also need to ensure that they stay connected with their roots. Unquote. Another statement, all eyes are now on implementation and there are challenges. Systemic changes will be made wherever necessary. We have to do this together and we have to do it now. You all are directly involved with the implementation of the national education policy. It is not the government alone, that is what he means. And therefore, your role is crucial. I am fully committed and with you, unquote. Hence, let me tell you, we have to join together. You know the age-old story of how, if there is going to be differential kind of temperaments and infights and other things, we will be the loser. But once you understand fully and you will be able to be successful, the mantra for today in implementing the national education policy is teamwork, teamwork, teamwork. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the elaborate, clear-cut concepts in holistic education and academic credit bank role in discharging it and the role of IQAC in the process. We'll go on to the next speaker. National Education Policy and Medical Education by Lieutenant General Dr. M.D. Venkatesh, Vice Chancellor, Manipal Academy of Higher Education. Let me introduce Lieutenant General Dr. M.D. Venkatesh. Dr. M.D. Venkatesh is the 7th Vice Chancellor of MAHE, Manipal. He graduated from Mysore Medical College in 1978 and commissioned in the Armed Medical Corps in 1979. He had his MSc ENT from Mumbai University in 1986. He has undergone training in cochlear implantation and neurotology in India and overseas. The Dean of AFMC established many departments and of medical education technology, including he was also Vice Chancellor of Sikkim Manipal University 2017 to 2020. Now, may I request Lieutenant General Dr. M.D. Venkatesh to deliver his lecture.
Thank you very much. May I request you to allow me to, show show my screen, please?
Can share your slide, sir.
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, is my slide seen?
Not yet, sir. Slide sharing. Merci, ma'am. Yes, sir. We are able to see, sir.
Okay, okay.
And put it on the.
Okay, am I
Yes.
seen fully? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. At the outset, let me thank the Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor of Sri Ramachandra for inviting me for this wonderful webinar. And warm greetings to everyone, all the faculty and all the participants of this webinar from Manipal Academy of Higher Education. So I would be presenting a brief perspective on medical education with regard to national education policy. Though there is no separate chapter on medical education or healthcare education, there's a very small mention of medical education in one of the chapters, that is the chapter on professional education. More importantly, the policy makes it very clear that it does not cover medical education and legal education. But being a national policy, obviously the regulators of medical education and healthcare education and the legal education will have to follow the guidelines which have been set aside by the national education policy. Be that as it may, I will go ahead and give my brief perspective of my understanding and my views. It's not possible for us to cover all the chapters of national education policy. I would be briefly covering 3 or 4 such chapters which have got an implication in medical education. So the major vision of National Education Policy 2020 is alignment with global sustainable development goals. And yet again, this is an important thing, that be locally active but globally competent is the mantra of today's education across the country, across the world. To provide an integrated yet a flexible approach to education, my previous speakers have elaborated quite extensively on that. Again, multidisciplinary approach to higher education vis-a-vis a unidisciplinary approach as it has been followed today, allowing our students to become well-rounded personalities with opportunities to excel in fields other than the chosen fields. Major emphasis is on focus on high quality of research, and the entire vision of NEP has been in facilitating transformation of the education system as a whole, beginning from school education to general education to professional education, and more than anything else, the final goal of the entire revision has been in facilitating national development, from taking the country from being a developing country to a developed country within a prescribed time frame. So I look at major challenges for medical education in these terms. The National Education Policy has laid out a very elaborate vision, and it is important for the National Medical Council, which has become a reality in 2019, to be totally aligned with the National Education Policy, apart from perhaps development of curriculum and little bit of the regulatory control. What is most important in the entire document is repeatedly speaks of light but tight regulatory control. That means the new policy allows adequate space, flexibility, and freedom for higher education institutions to deliver the academic delivery in the way they feel is most appropriate. The regulatory control will become less and less. And in fact, this is also one of the important aspects which the National Medical Commission Act also speaks about. And the other important thing is most of our medical schools, our medical colleges today are unidisciplinary, and they're part of their single standalone medical colleges. And therefore, to integrate multidisciplinary approach in medical education will be a challenge. And of course, but the important point to keep in mind is the policy very clearly defines by 2040 all educational institutions must become multidisciplinary. Therefore, there is a, there is for us a time frame and the objective which is clearly defined. How are we going from a unitary, purely healthcare-centered educational institution to becoming multidisciplinary education provider is an issue which needs further discussion. Perhaps going forward, the National Medical Commission, when it actually formulates the details of its functioning, might dwell on it. And I'm sure that this national education policy, having had such widespread discussion for over 5 years, and with all the stakeholders, has already had some amount of insight into the problems of unitary, single discipline institutions and universities, how to turn them into multidisciplinary universities. And ultimate aim of the entire national education policy is to bring out good, thoughtful, well-rounded, and creative graduates. And more importantly, to incorporate social sciences, liberal arts, and multidisciplinary elements into technical education also, which includes medical, legal education. So I won't go into the details to deregulate the higher education as we see from a single regulator, the University Grants Commission, or the All India Technical Education Committee. The new national education policy envisages a Higher Education Commission of India with 4 verticals: the National Higher Education Regulatory Council, which will function as a common single point regulator for higher education sector, including teacher education, however, excluding medical and legal education. There will be a National Accreditation Council, because accreditation is going to play a major role, as Dr. Tyagarajan clearly mentioned, that there has to be a standardized and a high quality education to be delivered across a wide array of institutions. Therefore, a strong accreditation system will be mandatory for all these things. Therefore, the National Accreditation Council will be one of the verticals, perhaps as mentioned already, by integration of NBA and NAAC, and also allowing for independent agencies to carry out supervised accreditation process. Here, I would like to add one thing. So far, the accreditation process for medical education or medical educational institution has, till last year, it was being governed by accreditation which was relevant to the general education and technical education. So there is a more thought that needs to be given towards developing accreditation mechanisms for medical and healthcare institutions. Though NAAC has come out with the healthcare guidelines, but it has, it has already made certain changes over a period of time. And I think there is a need for this particular thing to mature so that there is a clear understanding as to the accreditation needs of higher education and accreditation components of higher education in the field of medicine and other technical education systems. And the third vertical would be a Higher Education Grants Council, which will be carrying out the granting, funding, and financing aspect. And lastly, the General Education Council, which Madam mentioned, which is expected to frame expected learning outcomes for or graduate attributes for higher education programs. And also, it will act as the professional standard setting bodies, as would be the various other the regulatory bodies, MCI, DCI, INC, the PCI. All these things will perhaps only function as professional standard setting bodies and not really administering the entire gamut of professional education in the country. So a couple of issues on institutional restructuring and consolidation. This point has been mentioned. I again reiterate, all HAIs, including technical university, medical institutions, medical universities, legal universities, must become multidisciplinary by 2040. And the categories have already been mentioned, like research intensive university, teaching intensive universities, and autonomous degree granting colleges. I will not get into the details. The point I would like to reinforce would be all these multiple nomenclatures as deemed universities, affiliating universities, university institutions will be replaced by a term universities, which essentially will become multidisciplinary universities. And this change is also envisaged in medical, technical, legal, agricultural universities, and all other unitary institutions, that is the standalone institution offering various academic programs. When it comes to professional education, there's a chapter which deals, it's a short chapter. Again, it reinforces that even in professional education, the offering has to be holistic and multidisciplinary, allowing for the student's attributes and his interest and his introduction into various social sciences, liberal arts, music, arts, and even technical components of certain programs to be incorporated into this multidisciplinary approach. Therefore, if a medical doctor at a later stage would want to take a look or do an intense study, he already has an introductory credit which he has gained. And if, as we have seen in the academic credit transfer bank, if that has been deposited, he could take on a certificate course or a diploma or even a degree and acquire a second qualification post his primary qualification as a doctor. And healthcare education has been one or two points about is, has mentioned, the policy mentioned that it has to re-envision the duration, the structure, and the design of programs to match with the roles that the graduate will play. That means when you are looking at MBBS graduate, master's graduate, and the doctoral studies and a postdoctoral training, and vis-a-vis you also look at a nursing graduate or a paramedical graduate. This duration and structure of these programs must clearly match with the roles that these individuals are expected to play in their professional life. So this is something that perhaps will need a relook at. And this will perhaps will also be a point for consideration when we are looking at becoming globally competent. That means there would be a stage when we'll be looking at all our programs being globally recognized. Therefore, no additional training or no additional certificate being required to practice our ways when we decide to go across to other countries, or the graduates from other countries come into our country. Therefore, there's some amount of thought and work that needs to be done in this regard. The other point which the chapter on professional education stresses is emphasis will be on preventive healthcare and community medicine. Therefore, greater component of our probable curriculum in graduate medical education will be looking at these two aspects. Important point that has been made in professional education is that all institutions must take lead in cutting-edge technologies like artificial intelligence, IoT, virtual reality, artificial augmented reality, big data, machine learning, 3D machining, genomics, proteomics, biotech, nanotech, and neurosciences, which are the high-end research-intensive disciplines with applications in health sciences, environment, sustainable living. So these are the things which are going to propel or at least compress the time frame that is required by our country from moving towards development in its holistic fashion. The next chapter is a very important chapter which has been mentioned in the National Education Policy, is catalyzing academic research. Hitherto, since the time of independence, we have seen that many of the national institutes, we have segregated academic institutions and research institutions. And in research institutions, research has not really been given the adequate focus that it requires. And therefore, there has been a scattered research output across academic institutions. But world over, it is seen that the highest quality of research is produced in the best of the academic institution. And there's a need for us to integrate academics and research in a big way. And this is where the new national education policy stresses a big stress. So there is a renewed focus on quality of research. There's a full integration of academics and research is envisaged. And very importantly, which perhaps all of us could take advantage of, would be an establishment of the National Research Foundation, which envisages a very large corpus of funds where money will be available for funding, financing, nationally important, merit-based, equitable granting of funds for research. And this National Research Foundation will also facilitate international collaboration, and this will enable permeation of research culture through higher education institutions. This is some of the important functions which the National Research Foundation would concentrate upon. And this the last point is something that I would like to emphasize on our own higher education institutions, especially in the field of medicine. So this National Research Foundation would look at, will have a substantial funding for research. In fact, in the draft policy of 2019 NEP, it mentions something like 20,000 crores per year, which is a humongous amount of money. This body will be an independent body with a rotating board of governors to ensure that there is no bias, that everything that the body does would be above board, and it would be liable for scrutiny, and everybody would be treated with equity and justice. There will be merit-based and equitable grants to quality projects. This will act as a major support to research in universities. Therefore, this is a huge opportunity when it is established for us to exploit and to take our own institutional research into the next level by developing into inter-institutional research and country research with collaborations and joint research. So it will also act between a link between the researcher, the government institutions for facilitating seamless research activity. Currently, we have seen much of our research work is stuck in bureaucratic controls. That means fund is, the project is initiated, the discussion on the project takes a long time. By the time the sanctions comes, the next financial year is already started. And when the finances are granted, they're not granted in one go. It will be fragmentation. And therefore, the researcher is stuck with a lot of bureaucratic and paperwork. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why the objectives of National Research Foundation would be to ease this, to act as a link between the researcher, government institution, and create specific environment for facilitating seamless research activity. And something which is important, and even the Prime Minister made a mention in the meeting in the National Conclave the other day, is that there will be no discrimination in public and private higher education institution in terms of grant of merit, the grant of projects and funding, and all of them would be merit-based. And more than anything else, the above National Research Foundation funding will be over and above the funding that is available for research through DST, DBT, ICMR, ICAR, UGC, etc. Therefore, this is something which is very important, and I'm sure all of us need to spend some time on this and prepare. How are you going to exploit the National Research Foundation for enhancing research output at higher educational institutions? And what we can do, in fact, one of the points that the chapter dwells upon is to create a research culture in the higher education institution. And so what some actions that the HEIs can take to promote research culture within their own institution would be, I think there needs to be a larger encouragement for innovations by the faculty. The incentives for research and publications have to be clearly defined and provided for. Some of the HEIs are already doing it. This has to become universal so that there are incentives which are available for quality research and publications. We can also look at merit-based increase in salary and promotion, realigning teaching load for increased research time. That means as of now, most of the times the grouse of the faculty is they don't find time for research. Therefore, the institution can take a look at improving their teacher-student ratio, creating positions within the department with emphasis on research, less on academics and academic time, and creating certain positions within the university like research mentors, research focus groups, and which will allow, and also creation of certain departments of excellence purely towards our centers of excellence focused towards quality research. Also look at providing awards and recognition for research excellence. More importantly, as of now, most of us work in silos. Each department hardly talks to the other department. There's a need for us to look at interdisciplinary promotion and research more the people talk, more the ideas will germinate, and more the outcomes in research proposals will come out. And another important aspect with all the higher education institutions must look at and concentrate upon is to promote student research and also promote research at the undergraduate level. This perhaps would need a little more emphasis. Now, the next chapter, which talks on internationalization, this is towards improving quality. And it speaks of faculty and student mobility across universities and across the borders. In fact, I've been speaking about this in many other forums. The student and faculty mobility must become more internalized within the country first before we go in for a large-scale faculty and student mobility across borders. So there is a need for research collaboration, and national education policy talks of facilitating such collaborations with reputed foreign institutions. And also, as Madam mentioned it also talks about promoting India as a preferred destination for higher education, which would emphasize that the high quality education institutions in India can also benefit from students coming from outside to take educational offerings which are offered in these universities. And another important aspect which I'm going to reinforce is high performing Indian universities will be permitted to open campuses abroad, improving the visibility and garnering the clientele from the other perhaps less serviced countries to begin with. And top 100 foreign universities may be permitted to operate in India, either independently or in collaboration. Therefore, this is both a threat and an opportunity. It's a threat when they come inside for the institution, but the competitions will improve. However, it's an opportunity if these universities can collaborate with existing Indian universities to offer perhaps joint programs, joint certification, etc. And more importantly, structured MOUs for comprehensive mutually beneficial arrangement on an equitable basis need to be struck with the highly reputed foreign institutions. The third chapter that one of the other important chapter that talks about is technology use and integration. Even in healthcare and medical education, there is a need for us for increasing the use of technology, and the COVID has taught us, this particular pandemic has taught us a lesson. We have adapted, but in an ad hoc fashion. Perhaps now we need to adapt it and more elaborately in a more, detailed manner, in a planned manner. Therefore, there's a need for upgradation of digital infrastructure across all institutions. We need to develop and adopt new teaching platforms and tools. There is more importantly, there's a need for creation of quality content, and also look at online and tech-driven academic delivery and assessment, which we have done again in an ad hoc fashion. Perhaps it could be internalized. The total 100% campus-bound programs, even within the campus, we can look at offering some of these classes or like modules on an online basis, and relieving the academic time for the teachers, and also allowing students for more and more skill acquisition and acquisition of clinical skills within the institution. And with formative assessment taking a very big leap forward, therefore technology-driven formative assessments perhaps would be a way forward, and this adaptation is extremely important. And again, development of skill labs, virtual labs is most important. And in these laboratories, it is important that we also train the faculty in the use of these technologies, so that the medical education offering that each of these higher education institutions are providing is substantially better in quality. And there is also need for us to adapt AI, AR, VR, machine learning, and 3D machining technology in our own, academic programs, so that the learning curve is shortened. The period of learning is shortened, especially in skill-based learning, and this will offer more flexibility to the student to learn it in his own pace, and by repeatedly doing it before actually trying it out on live patients, this would be a wonderful idea to use, skill labs, virtual labs, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality. I think this is going to be the future in the next 5 years. We will be inundated with technologies and offerings for support infrastructure as far as medical education and healthcare education is concerned. The universities and higher education institutions must be ready and perhaps also plan their infrastructure development in that fashion, and also create opportunities for budgetary support, keeping the future in mind. And as I mentioned earlier, I think we also need to open up from blended models of learning offerings, not sticking to conventional campus-based, hospital-based, programs. Not that they're not important; they will be the most important component of our graduate education delivery. However, the blended modes will also add enough value and perhaps allow students, for better accomplishments in their academics and in their practice. Issues of concerns that we need to keep in mind. We presume that since this is a national policy, the other agencies which will be regulating the other education, that is the National Medical Commission and other healthcare regulators, will have complete alignment with the national education policy, other than professional standard setting functions, and a little bit of a regulation in terms of controlling the duration of the programs. Therefore, there's a need, again, a very felt need of integration and harmonization of all healthcare education regulators. It's distressing to see that we have so many regulators covering common problems like medical regulator, Medical Council of India, Dental Council of India, Nursing Council of India, Paramedical Council of India, and we are again looking at an Allied Health Council of India. We are splitting the functions where I'm reminded of the emphasis which Dr. Tyagarajan gave just now, the teamwork. In fact, at the inception itself, we have split the team. Therefore, the integration at a later level will become that much more difficult. Therefore, there has to be integration and harmonization at the regulatory level itself. And more importantly, I mentioned earlier also, there needs to be due care to be given to healthcare accreditation and ranking. Both the things will become very important, as much of the benefits of all the new policies would depend upon at what level of accreditation have you reached, including your ability to open up campuses abroad or receive collaboration, receive research fund, receive support, all these things. In fact, even Dr. Tyagarajan mentioned that even the credit bank will only be offered to institutions which have got A grading in NAAC. So therefore, there is a need for us to take a serious look at accreditation. Going forward, I foresee, it's been mentioned in the draft, that accreditation will become binary in the sense that somebody is accredited or not accredited. However, the option would also be there for us to seek, graded accreditation, so that one could take benefit of and mistake or improve your perception by having a higher grading. Another important thing, which is perhaps the need of the hour in terms of medical education, would be alignment with global education system and trends. I think there is a big need for us to take a look and realign ourselves with the global medical education system in terms of duration, in terms of academic delivery, in terms of evaluations, so that there is a standardization of curriculum and training methods. And ultimately, we need to take a look at reciprocal recognition of Indian and foreign qualifications. Therefore, our students who acquire an Indian qualification should not be disadvantaged, should not be made to face another series or another few years of training, additional examinations. All this thing can happen only when we can align ourselves with the global standards. And perhaps I'm sure that, we also need to be recognized and integrated with the global medical education system in totality. So this, I feel, will make a huge leap in terms of inviting foreign medical graduates to come and practice in India, find foreign medical schools and healthcare institutions to come and give their offerings in India, to collaborate with Indian institutions, and more importantly, it will open up avenues and vistas for dual certification, dual training, dual degrees, and it will be a win-win situation for everyone who's part of this development. I only hope that it happens sooner than later. So I would just about summarize. I would like to say that which has been mentioned by our previous two speakers, NEP 20 is an exceptional, revolutionary, and path-breaking policy document. It's really futuristic, yet with an Indian content and an Indian heart. And therefore, the healthcare education also needs to be fully in sync with the national education policy. And we need to create clear roadmaps and time-bound implementation. As the Prime Minister mentioned in the other day in the conclave, careful planning, joint and collaborative implementation by the center, state, and all the HAIs is of paramount importance. We are all equal partners in this implementation. Therefore, our role is very crucial in, in taking forward this national education policy to look at India at 2035 as a developed country. And there is also need for us to look at and plan timely infusion of resources, both in terms of human resources, physical infrastructure, and financial resources. And onus is on all of us to catapult India from developing to a developed country over the next decade and a half. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for highlighting the vision of national education policy and what are the major changes in medical education and major challenges for medical education. The role of catalyzing academic research in the National Education Policy 2020, and thanks for highlighting the methods of improvement and which is already followed in our institution. Thank you, sir. We'll go on to the next part of the session, that is panel discussion. And I request Professor P. Vijayaraghavan, Dr. Anand Samuel, and Dr. Vijay Kole to join in the panel discussion along with the speakers. First, let me introduce our Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. P. Vijayaraghavan, Vice Chancellor, Srihar. He did his MCA Orthopedics at the University of Liverpool, UK, Prima Fellowship, same in Ludhiana, and is a Fulbright Scholar, and is a former Director, Academic Administration and Dean Education at SRU, responsible for the curricular development activities of the constituent colleges of the university. He created education units with constituent undergraduate and postgraduate division. Under his leadership, Sri Ramachandra Medical College has put up an innovative integrated curriculum for the MBBS program. Convener, Nodal Center for Medical Education Technologies, recognized by Medical Council of India, conducting basic and advanced faculty development programs, and including fellowship in medical education. He is an expert member for MCA curriculum and faculty development appointed by the MCA Board of Governors. Now, I request Professor P. Vijayaraghavan to say a few words in medical education.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi, for that opportunity. I am in concurrence with Lieutenant General Dr. M.D. Venkatesh that while the National Education Policy has put up a huge 62-page document in several chapters, unfortunately did not integrate sufficiently with the health professions education. And I'm very happy that Dr. Venkatesh has brought in many of the principles that have been brought in with a lot of general stress can be utilized by the health profession education. And I am totally with Dr. Venkatesh that the integration not only of the other spheres of health like Ayurveda and yoga and other things, we should also integrate in terms of the several councils that exist with the Dental Council, the Nursing Council, and now the Allied Health Councils, which can set standards. Absolutely, there is no problem in these people setting standards, but they should be in alignment with the national education policy that has been declared in terms of utilization of technology, in terms of providing online education wherever possible, in terms of also providing the practical training to many of these areas. And this, I think, is the step forward. But the National Medical Commission and all the other councils should be able to integrate itself together in order to define various needs that are required for health professions education. I am only a little concerned that the national education policy, I'm sure, had its experts with the health professions education, had not given sufficient coverage of the needs of the health professions education. I think it probably requires to have separate chapters under professional educations for health professional education, for even technical education and other things. It has considered quite a lot of general educational principles very well, including school education. But this is probably the need of the hour, and I'm sure in the future years this will come through. Thank you for the opportunity.
Go on to the next panelist, Professor Dr. Vijay Kole. Professor Dr. Vijay Kole is a unique combination of excellent academic career along with outstanding achievements in academic administration. He functioned as Director, Institute of Science, Aurangabad, Founder Registrar, Swami Ramanand Teeth Marathwada University in Maharashtra, Pro-Vice Chancellor and Vice Chancellor, University of Mumbai, and first Vice Chancellor of Amity University, Mumbai, the first private university of Maharashtra. Chaired most of the state-level committees constituted for universities in Maharashtra. He was instrumental in setting many departments and centers of excellence in University of Mumbai. He has published 18 research papers and 10 popular articles. His book and chapters in books are published by Ellis Harwood, UK, and Markel Decker, USA. Now I request Professor Dr. Vijay Kole to say a few words on general education.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi, for the kind introduction. I must also thank Professor Tyagarajan to have invited me to participate in this very important webinar. All the previous speakers have spoken so well about the New Education Policy 2020, stating that it's a unique contribution as far as the development and growth of education.
Your voice is breaking.
Is it okay now?
Yes, it's better, sir.
Yeah.
Please proceed.
So earlier to this, we also have had several committee reports and commission reports, starting from that of Kothari Commission. All those reports and commissions also had given valuable suggestions for improving the state of higher education in the country. Unfortunately, many of those important suggestions could not be implemented for various reasons. This particular policy has certain unique features, and the policy has been launched, and it looks that many of these unique suggestions will get implemented. So the importance of National Education Policy 2020 is there is a certainty that the suggestions will be implemented. This is also the first report which is a comprehensive report and has taken into consideration the reforms that must take place in the school education sector also. And therefore, the uniqueness of this report lies in the concept of looking at all aspects of higher education. The report also touches the aspects of medical education, legal education. It also assigns responsibilities now differently to the different councils. It has also suggested drastic regulatory reforms as far as our regulatory bodies and councils are concerned. And therefore, the New Education Policy 2020 is likely to lead the sector of higher education to exceptional heights.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Please continue, sir.
Yeah, I'm through.
So voice is breaking, not able to hear.
So I have finished my introduction part.
Thank you, sir. And we'll go on to the next panelist, Dr. Anand Samuel. Dr. Anand Samuel completed his bachelor's in engineering from the College of Engineering, Guindy, and went on to pursue his master's in IIT Madras and PhD in Anna University. As Vice Chancellor of Vellore Institute of Technology University since 2015, he is a recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award from QCFI. He has published more than 90 research papers in journals and conferences, written a book on total quality management, and completed 5 funded research projects. And he has awards and honors. He was a former regional director, ISHREA, and former executive committee member of ASHREE, and former secretary, QCFI Chennai, master trainer certified by IST New Delhi, quality lead assessor certified by BSI UK, and recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award. Sir, can you say a few words, sir, on technical education, new education policy 2020? Anand Samuel, sir. Anand Samuel, sir, can you hear me?
Am I audible? Yeah, fine.
Yeah,
Right
okay,
at this moment, current failed, and anyway, thank you. I'm indeed very happy to be here amidst all the learned members. I would like to thank Professor S.P. Thiagarajan sir for giving this opportunity, and also the IQAC team. And good to have interaction with all the vice chancellors, reputed vice chancellors. At this point in time, I thought I'll just project a few things about the technical education, the need for reforms now. And just to tell you that, we have, I think all of us know about it, I'm just repeating, that we have different types of technical education institutions, government, private, and deemed universities. In deemed universities, again, private deemed university and state private deemed universities. And then we have NIT and IITs and so on and so forth. Variety of education institutions. And if you just analyze each of these institutions, you will find a big gap between each of these institutions. Big gap in the quality of education imparted, a big gap in the employability of the school students coming out of these institutions, and there's a big gap where the industries get connected to these institutions. It's not that institutions getting connected to the industry. The vice versa also is important. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. There's a big gap there. And institutions connecting with abroad, seldom it happens. Very few institutions have good connections. And there's a big gap in the personality of the students coming out of these institutions. Some institutions, I don't want to name them, I don't want to categorize them. They're all students who are termed as just local students, whereas other students, other institution students, they are global in nature. So they've been trained that way. So in that, again, there's a big gap. And the autonomy extended by the government for various institutions, they are not the same. And so maybe in terms of the number of students that they can take, the fees they can levy, and the curriculum revisions that they can have, a lot of limitations are there. So there's an autonomy gap there. And the speed with which different institutions operate, again, there is a gap. And entry behavior is something very, very important, which is taught to all of us when we took training. But, many of us, or maybe I would say 99% of us, never bother about the entry behavior of the students. And there's a big gap there in that. And how many institutions really bother about meeting the challenges of 2025? See, the students coming in here, we have to prepare them for 2025 workforce. Are we ready? Are we thinking about that? Are we preparing them? There is a big gap there. And many institutions can do so many things, but are these institutions allowed to do those things so that we can have a better GER? Again, there's a big gap. So these are all some of the gaps that comes to my mind when we talk about technical education in Indian context at this point in time. Now, when I look at the new education policy, I'd say that it's an excellent document. And maybe if time is there, I can, explain how each and every gap that has been identified by me now is being fulfilled there. It's something has been attempted to set right the gaps there. So in that way, I'm sure that if we take it in the right spirit, if we put across things in the right way, and if we implement it appropriately, I'm sure that this NEP 2020 will be definitely making the technical education a world-class education from Indian context. That's not an issue at all. But one point which I want to tell you is that whenever a policy document is released, I'm sure that every policy document will be an excellent document. I don't think anyone can think of any policy document that too in a national level like this coming out to be incomplete or not so good document and all that. But I think all of us know, all of us have directly talked about the success of this policy depends on the implementation. So, and again, I don't think we should be looking at government for the implementation procedures. I think at this point in time, all of us, the educational leaders, should join together and maybe coin the implementation plan. That's very, very essential. Now, I have attended and I have listened to many of the webinars on NEP 2020. All of us and all of them, all others, they have been talking only about the positive things and appreciating it. It's good, that's necessary. But if we want to have excellent implementation and make this policy a success, then it is necessary that not the others. I'm not talking about the politicians looking at the negatives and criticizing. I'm talking about the educationalists looking at the negatives and then giving constructive suggestions. That is important. Without that, implementation will not be a success. And we need to have the habit of reading between the lines. It's a big document, but we need to read between the lines and then question each and every statement there and find an answer. If there is a negativity there, there's a possibility of a negativity there, because it is not the government who is going to implement. Please understand, it's all of us who are going to implement, and it's the state government is involved in it, and many of us will be involved in it. So if all the three, looking at the positives and appreciating like what we are doing now, looking at the negatives and giving constructive criticisms, which is needed on the hour now, which we need to do it. And if we read between the lines and question, and then find out a positive, how to make that, if it is a negativity there, how to make it positive. If that is done by all of us in webinars like this, I'm sure that this will be a success and we'll all be happy that NEP 2020 has definitely done its job well. Thank you.
Now we'll go on to the panel discussion. Questions raised by the participants already in the GoToWebinar website. We have collected them and we'll be projecting these questions. And I request the panelists to start answering these questions. Thank you, Dr. Pankaj Mittal, for such good highlights on national education policy. The medical colleges will be categorized under which type of research and teaching, and only teaching. Dr. Pankaj Mittal. Anybody can also answer in this, but it is been addressed to Dr. Pankaj Mittal. Just one.
See, the medical colleges, the ones which are colleges, the policy says that every university has now to become a multidisciplinary university. So in my opinion, all the health universities, they will become multidisciplinary universities. I don't mean by that they will be offering programs in different disciplines. Means the health university will be offering programs, say MS Sanskrit, MS Sociology or something like that. But there will be the departments of other subjects also, so that the medical students can also get a holistic development, and he doesn't study medicine alone, not only the medicine alone, but also the other subjects. So it will be a university. I think medical should be teaching intensive university. I'm not very sure. Depends upon the type of the university which you want to become. If a medical university wants to focus on research, it can be a research intensive university. If it wants to focus on teaching, it can be a teaching intensive university. But it has to be a multidisciplinary university.
Thank you, madam. We'll go on to the next question. This is also addressed to Dr. Pankaj Mittal. How education policy and various changes in education system will affect the medical education? Will the approach to medical education also be changed?
See, I'm not an expert in medical education, but as far as I understand, it will be an integrative system of medicine now, where allopathy will also study other systems of medical sciences, and other system will also study allopathy. So it has to be an integrative system of medicine. But I'm sure the fellow panelists can take this question because they are experts in medical education.
Yeah, Dr. Ravi.
VC to say it.
Yeah, I'm happy this question has come up. Actually, I don't know what is the level of discussion that has happened at the government level. In fact, Dr. Ved Prakash Mishra, in one of the other discussions, did raise quite a lot of concerns about this particular aspect. Unless the government comes up with an integrated approach on this particular thing, it's going to be a major issue. And to the participant who has asked this particular question, the Medical Council in the new avatar as the National Medical Commission has already put up a competency-based medical education in place. Now that is basically concerning quite a lot of integration amongst the various subject matters based on competencies, which has been clearly defined, and this has been declared as a policy in the 2019 by the Gazette notification. And once you take up this particular aspect of integration amongst the allopathy itself, that itself was a major problem in our medical education system in the past. Now, once that has come into being, to integrate other aspects, we do introduce, even in our foundation codes, we have said that alternative systems of medicine should also be a topic to be discussed amongst our medical students. But how much and how far has not been defined. So that particular aspect of bringing in other systems of medicine into allopathy with the present mindset of the various doctors, which is a very powerful group, is something which needs quite a lot of deliberation. So it may affect the medical education to an extent, because if the government is going to insist that all other systems of medicine also has to be learned, whether the present 5.5 years is sufficient for that, and how it is going to help. Basically, I feel that the medical graduate should know about other systems, and he should be able to refer patients as and when they require the other systems of medicine towards that. So if that can be achieved, I think it is a huge development for our country. So I think the education policy does mention, but this particular aspect needs quite a lot of deliberation. And I'm sure the NMC probably will be given this task of integrating with other systems, how best it can be done. And we will have to work out on that.
Thank you, sir.
I'll just add one point here. I agree with Dr. Vijayaraghavan. It is not possible for an in-depth study of other systems of medicine in any form of either allopathic or Ayurvedic. Perhaps the document means that there should be an introduction to these forms of medicine. So therefore, I think that's a distinct possibility that even an allopathic doctor must know some introduction into the other forms of other systems of medicine. I think the intention of the document is that, and not that he should become competent enough to practice the other system of medicine. This is what I presume.
Thank you.
Yet there is a need for clarity. I fully agree.
Thank you, sir. We'll go on to the next question. This question is, how could this new education policy impact on the readiness of medical students as a real-time doctors?
This
Dr. M.D. Venkatesh, sir?
Yes. Am I audible, please?
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
Yeah. So I'm taking this question. Thanks, Dr. Anandalakshmi, and definitely is going to be a positive impact of the national education policy on the readiness of medical student. I have several reasons to support this. One, he will come out as a well-rounded personality with a good social and societal consciousness. If it is the national education policy is implemented in letter and spirit, that some kind of a social science and liberal education is also added in as a small component into medical education. Second important thing is how it is going to impact is the quality of entry into medical education system will also be so much better, because the school education system is undergoing a very, very big reform in this. Therefore, the entry level of many higher education institutions will be directly benefited by an augmented system of school education. Second, as Dr. Vijayaraghavan has already pointed out, that the new curriculum for medical education has just been implemented. In fact, we are struggling to complete phase 1 as we stand today. But this is a very well thought out reform, which was much needed, that where we are looking at a competency-based medical education. Therefore, going forward, if this is complemented with technology empowered learning with a bit of a research orientation at the undergraduate level, I am sure that the new medical graduates who are coming out will become better real-time doctors. And as far as the improvement, the quality of medical education is concerned, it will substantially improve as the GDP to education itself is going to go up by almost 2% as it stands today, which is a huge amount of money, and significant part of this money will come into improving facilities, infrastructure, and support to medical education. So therefore, I'm 100% sure that the new policy, if it is aligned, if the National Medical Council aligns itself with the new policy and there is a reasonable integration, the quality of the product will also be better, and he'll come out as a better real-time doctor.
Thank you, sir. We'll go on to the next question. Professor Vijayaraghavan, sir. Medical programs require 5.5 years to complete, but according to NEP, all programs will have 4 years duration. Is it applicable to medical and allied fraternity as well?
No, it will not apply, because as basically, that's why I said that this particular document does not deal with the health professional certificate at a length. So the National Medical Commission already is going to be the one who is going to sort of give the standard guidelines on this. I don't think there will be any sort of an effort made. In fact, I am of the opinion that if given a chance, it could be increased by another 0.5 years. For them to sort of get into the other principles learning and things like that. This is for a general bachelor's program that they have talked about a 4-year duration and 3-year duration. Many technical and professional education will have its own body to give guidelines on this. I don't think that would be. The other aspect that I wanted to tell you was that the competency-based medical education for the first time is giving opportunity for electives. Now, the concept of electives was never there in medical education for many, many years, for umpteen number of years. Now, these electives, unfortunately, the medical fraternity still seems to be choosing subjects which are related to the medical field itself. There is definitely possibility for institutions which have engineering along with medicine to introduce principles of artificial intelligence, to introduce principles of machine learning for the medical graduates also to undergo as electives. So there is an opportunity that people should also utilize such type of fields under electives.
We'll go on to the next question. Professor S.P. Tyagarajan, sir. How the new education policy system is helpful for health science courses? What are its merits and demerits?
Thank you very much. I think when you talk about health sciences courses and new education policy, there are 2 chapters which are addressing it, which could be looked into. Chapter 11.2, when it is talking about holistic education, it brings in synergy of creativity and analytical skills, higher order thinking, and others in science, technology, environment, and medicine, wherein you would be able to bring in on the educational aspect the holistic knowledge, incorporating the flexibility component that a student can have, so that the holistic understanding of the health sciences will happen. When we talk of health sciences, it doesn't only mean only medical program. There can be dental program, pharmacy program, allied health sciences, physiotherapy, and so many others, as many faculties as possible. So interchangeably, there could be a kind of a flexibility in the holistic education. when you go for skills, 17.4 elaborates on the skill imparting provisions that are there for the students in the area of health education. These skills can be imparted both as an integrated fashion as well as in the necessary skills that are necessary for innovation and creativity. Today, we are talking about innovation and creativity more often to see that the potentials of the student is facilitated to be, ingrained in their futuristic attempt. So it is possible that the new education policy will be helpful for health science courses, both in terms of the educational inputs they will derive, as well as their skill building ability, which is equally important for their future employability or future entrepreneurship or future kind of a industrial kind of involvement that they may be able to do through startups, incubators, etc. So I consider that there is a lot of merits in it. If at all you would like to think in terms of demerits, it is important that we break the ice, make the people understand not only the stakeholder community consisting of students, but also the teachers, policy planners, and others. That is where probably the kind of professional standard setting committees and bodies that are going to be constituted will provide enough avenue to bring in this kind of full understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll go on to the next question. Whether in India, will it be feasible to do online teaching and virtual simulation in all health professions? Madam.
The online teaching till COVID stuck, everybody was afraid of online teaching and people thought that online teaching will be a very, very difficult thing. But after COVID, people started, I was surprised at how overnight the teachers started teaching online, especially in the regular subjects. But in the field of medical sciences, there will be a little difficulty, but then there are concepts like virtual labs, there are concepts like simulation studies, through which many experiments can be done online. Right now, because there is no other option, we have to go in for online. But in future, the future is not only online, the future is not only face-to-face, the future is blended education. So blended, including face-to-face as well as online, can be the future, but then yes, we can go in for online, and COVID has proved that yes, we can go for online.
Thank you, madam.
Dr. Ravi, I just thought to Madam's points, absolutely, they are very good. We also can look at virtual ward rounds. We can also look at, people can stay wherever they are, and a lot of procedures can be demonstrated through virtual methods. So I think there is a huge future for here. See, we have got a mindset to think that health science profession does not align itself towards virtual education, but there are so many possibilities. We'll have to look at some of the resources from abroad, and we can definitely utilize that for our country much better.
Thank you, sir.
I'll just add one more point to what Dr. Vijayaraghavan and Dr. Pankaj Mittal have mentioned. I think it is basically the mindset change that is required. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of possibilities. Already it is happening within the country and outside. Lot of content is available, wherein even skills are being demonstrated, if not actual skills practices, but virtual labs are a reality going forward. Second issue is I would just like to add and give an example. Very recently, all the medical institutions, in many of the medical institutions, we have been able to conduct postgraduate examinations online. That means there is a distinct possibility of utilizing technology. And in fact, I must admit that examiners, the examinee, and the organizers were extremely happy with the way it was conducted. It took away a lot of our administrative time and efforts. The evaluation was carried out online. The clinical cases were discussed online. Various other things were adapted to online mode, and it was a good experience. Therefore, there is innumerable possibilities. I fully agree with Dr. Vijayaraghavan. It is only opening up the mind, and perhaps if there is a space available or space given by the regulator to experiment, these things will become a reality. It's going to definitely, I would agree.
Your voice
And
is
AI
broken.
will help AI will help to a large extent.
Thank you, madam. We'll go on to the next question. How far can we implement the National Education Policy 2020 to professional colleges? Dr. Anand Samuel, like engineering.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you for this question. If you ask me, I will say that it is definitely a possibility. And as I said earlier, we have to do the implementation very carefully in an appropriate way. And we know that there is a proverb which goes that where there is a will, there is a way. And it's not that somebody else is going to give us the implementation plan. Now we need to have the implementation plan and then go ahead. Policies, in my opinion, is a structure that's been given to us. Interiors is ours, it's yours. And with the autonomy that's coming in, I'm sure that we'll be able to, coin the implementation strategies and make it success. It's not an issue at all. To give you some examples, I'm going to tell a few things in 1 minute or so. What we do at VIT is, mind you, I'm not talking about what we're going to do at VIT based on this NAP 2020. What we have been doing it at VIT for the past 5-6 years now. We have fully flexible credit system, which is being projected now in NAP 2020. That means every student can, choose their own subjects, their own teacher. Their timetable is framed by them. It's already there in VIT for the past 7-8 years, I would say. And we have project-based learning, meaning that every student is made to learn by doing. And we heard our Prime Minister talking about independent individual thinking. And we have introduced a 1-credit course called IIP, Introduction to Innovative Practices. It's a light course, and it only makes for 1 full semester the students to think differently, innovatively. And like that, I can go on. We have introduced higher order thinking. Now it's been there in all our question papers for the past 5-6 years. And soft skill, extracurricular activity, and extra language, a compulsory one. All these things are in our curriculum itself. Now, since all these things are already there, integrating industries in our curriculum by having an 8th module and so on. All these things, most of these, as I was reading the National Education Policy, I was just wondering, okay, looks like we have already in the race, and then we have started implementing it for the past 5 years. It's good that our job is becoming easier. So since VIT has been doing it, it's been doing it successfully, I would say without any difficulty that any other institution can implement it. And as it's been already said, the mindset is the key factor. If we have a mind, I'm sure that we can implement.
Thank you, sir. We'll go on to the next question. Ranking and accrediting agencies gives maximum emphasis on research component. As a reaction, higher education institutes are mainly focused on research and publication. Will this dilute teaching, learning, and training aspect and jeopardize the education?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sachin Sarode, for the question. Interesting question. And in fact, as I go forward, I mentioned in my presentation that accreditation and ranking are going to be very, very important going forward, because it will decide on the way the quality of the institution. It will define the quality of the educational offering in the institution. Whether in a medical institution it is going to affect academic delivery or not, I'm not sure. It's only going to make it better. Academics and research have to go hand in hand. And therefore, it's not necessary that every faculty in a medical college should become a researcher, but there would be some exceptional researchers within the faculty. But every faculty must endeavor to produce a research article over a period of time, and most institutions have stipulated it. In fact, some of them at the set a limit. Even our regulator has set a limit that before you seek a promotion from assistant to associate professor, you should have published 2 papers in a reputed journal. So this kind of stipulations are already there, and this is again a level of research. It's not necessary that you make original path-breaking research, but to do a continuous clinical research or publish some observational research or comparative research. All these things are also research. And therefore, integrating research into academics is one of the major focus of the national education policy. And to think that research will be a burden on faculty, I'm not sure. However, there are points by which there are ways in which the institution will make it a little better. You can clearly look at, I mentioned in my talk too, that to look at the student faculty ratio, look at providing incentives, creating newer facilities, collaborations, interdisciplinary research. You cannot do away research from a university. So this definitely academics and ranking will go hand in hand. And obviously there has to be metrics where you have to really look at how to rank an institution. Even world over, if you look at it, the best of the academic institutions also produce best of the best of research outputs. Therefore, we have to keep all these things in mind. It is part and parcel of the entire educational system. You cannot do away with accreditation. You cannot do away with research. So there has to be a good amalgamation of the two, and we need to be focused on these issues. I'm not sure it will affect the academic delivery at all. Definitely not.
I can add
Thank you,
a
sir.
corollary to that. Like when we were working in UGC and we used to make how to evaluate a university, it was very easy to evaluate research in form of publications or PhDs produced and all these things. But how to evaluate good teaching, that was always an issue. Like what parameter you will use, pass percentage of students, how will you evaluate whether this teacher is a good teacher, whether he is teaching well or not. Therefore, although teaching is important, but this also creates a roadblock that how to evaluate good teaching.
Thank you, madam. We'll go to the next question. Are we going to revisit and revise and refine the methods of academic evaluation in the upcoming National Policy 2020? Dr. Vijay Kole, sir.
Okay. So thank you for bringing up this wonderful question. As the previous speakers have stated so clearly, the policy is actually a student-centric policy. And therefore, it provides a facilitatory structure as far as the assessment and evaluation procedures are concerned. Therefore, institutions and the staff in the institutions will have freedom to be innovative as far as assessment methodology to be introduced in their institutions is concerned. Of course, within a broader framework of the higher education system. The kind of innovative pedagogy that is going to be implemented under this particular scheme will involve quite a lot of hands-on training, will also involve workshop learning, learning at the floor of the industry, at the floor of business houses. There would be quite a lot of projects that would be assigned to the students, as a result of which the evaluation procedures will have to be changed. We also have the procedure of students earning credits. Now, the earning of credits is going to be with reference to specific characters, and those characters are with reference to what kind of proficiency a student earns with respect to the learning objectives and learning goals that are specified in the curriculum. And therefore, the assessment procedure, evaluation procedure also will have to be devised accordingly. There is going to be quite a lot of technology that will be involved in the evaluation procedures. Artificial intelligence will be a central theme as far as our evaluation procedures are concerned.
Thank
But
you,
the main difference will be that instead of having a term and examination of 3 hours and assessing the student on the basis of the 3-hour examination at the end of the semester, it will be a continuous evaluation throughout the semester, and the student will be assessed continuously based on various methods spoken by Professor Kole. But it will not be a term and evaluation, it will be a continuous evaluation.
Yeah, you are right. You are right. Also, the evaluation is going to be a summative, formative evaluation instead of a summative evaluation which we currently have.
We'll go on to the next question. According to the policy, use of technology in education has to be enhanced. How to implement it? Anand Samuel, sir.
Yeah. Well, all of us know that the whole world is becoming technology oriented. Wherever you go, it's technology and technology. So it's necessary that all of us in the education institutions also become tech savvy and then use technology to the extent possible. This is very, very important. Right now, if you just analyze a student who's studying maybe science or arts or engineering in any institution for that matter, after finishing the course, when he goes to a company, if it's an MNC, he never uses pen or a pencil. He will not be seeing a paper at all. Everything is in online mode. So when that is a situation which is happening in the industry, what is a big deal? We are following the good old tradition of asking the students to use the pen and then asking them to write, use the paper and write the answers in the paper and so on and so forth. I think, again, there is a need for a mindset here that we need to understand what is needed for the students. For us, what is comfortable for us is different, but what is needed for the student right now is technology. And that is the need from the job point of view. And from the other side, looking at the student side, if we just see what is that they like, the present day student, they're all called as, if they're already in the college, they are called as Generation Y. And maybe if they are in the final year of school and so on, they are in the next category of Generation Alpha. These two different types of students have different psychological makeup altogether. What they like, what they don't like, and what they want, what they don't want, and what is their learning styles. Everything is entirely different. If you analyze them, you will understand that they want everything in the digital mode. They don't want to read textbooks in a hard copy. They don't like it at all. On the other hand, if it is available in the form of a text in the cell phone, they prefer it. They like it. They don't want to listen to the lecture of even the Nobel laureates for 1 hour sitting in before the Nobel laureate. They don't want it. That's nature is like that. We don't blame them. We cannot blame them. But on the other hand, there is something in the YouTube for 2 hours. They don't mind listening to it. So this is how the mindset of the student is. So since the industry needs technology, and since the students who are with us, who are coming to us, and who will be coming to us later also, all of them are technology oriented. They are all tech savvy. It is necessary that we need to enhance technology in our teaching learning process also. It is very, very important. And now looking at the mindset of the teacher, maybe if a teacher is a person who's asked this question, then yes, well, for the teacher, they have to reorient themselves. And now it is a do or die situation. Whether they reorient or they leave. No, that's how the situation is. And so we have to understand that, and we have to learn. And when we learn, there are certain things that we need to understand. See, if somebody wants to become a master in a car, and what he needs to do, if he wants to drive a car, if he wants, he can go there, take a lesson for driving in 5 days, and then become a driver, and then carry on and learn designing later on. But if you say that, oh, car, it's a complicated thing, how can I know driving without understanding the braking principles and things like that? So let me do some course on braking and things like that. If you do it, it will be a nightmare for the teacher. That's what is happening now. I think as leaders, we need to make them understand that learn driving now, designing will do it later on. Like, we teach the kids to talk first, and then ABCD start 3 years later on. So application first and fundamentals later on. If that mindset is brought into the mind of our teachers, and I'm sure that all of us will not have any issues at all. So another point which will come to mind is about the cost. Well, yes, if we start using the commercial software packages for all your applications, yes, it again another nightmare, not for the teachers, it will be for the management. But we have now free open software packages available in plenty. We have researching on that and finding out, what are all the software openware available, open software packages available, which we can use it for VIT, and we are slowly implementing it. And we are finding that, we are cutting down our costs tremendously. So I don't think that there's any issue, and everything is coming in its own way. And we have to change our mindset and then become technology enhanced university or institution for that matter. And we may have to use technology even for uncommon things. For example, at VIT, again, sorry that I'm bringing VIT again and again. At VIT, we teach mathematics using MATLAB software. Can you ever imagine? Have you ever heard about it in an Indian context? No. We do that because we want to interest the student now. When the student, instead of sitting before the board and teacher goes and derives everything on the board and explains, instead he's taken to a lab, MATLAB lab, and he does the solution there, and he gets the application directly, and then students likes it. So this is how we are changing, and I think there's no other go. And let us change, and it's not a difficult thing at all. Thank you.
Dr. Ravi, I just thought I'll add on to Dr. Anand Samuel in that, that question was from a person from a medical institution. Just to help him out, it is better to sort of invest for every medical college into some sort of a learning management system. But as Dr. Samuel said, one system will not satisfy healthcare at all, because most of these learning management systems, the content part, if you see, they are loaded with contents for technical education and many other education. The healthcare education has to contribute quite a lot. And this is where Ramachandra has done a huge contribution by actually getting into Moodle. Actually, in Moodle, we have created quite a lot of content from healthcare point of view. So it is essential that the faculty contribute towards that, and then the students are able to learn quite a lot out of these systems. In fact, in our institution, all the presentations, the PowerPoints, everything is loaded into the Moodle system, which the students can at his own pace start learning out of that. And Manipal has also done a huge contribution by developing their own learning management system. I would like Venkatesh to just add a few.
Yes, sir. This is a focus point in adapting technology into education. This has been a big area of interest for Manipal Group. And at MAHE, like Dr. Vijayaraghavan has suggested, there is a lot of content available for the students. It is mandatory for the faculty to upload their content. We have also created lecture recording systems in most of the lecture halls, and this can be made available to the students who can learn at their own pace. Many of them may not be attentive in the class or missed out on a class. They can go back and log on to their recorded lectures and be able to use it. We have invested heavily into technology. Even in the times of COVID, we could have interactive classrooms. In fact, some very interesting things happened during the COVID pandemic, that the attendance for the online classes were much far better than the regular campus-based programs. So this was because of the flexibility, and also the duration of the classes were reduced in such a way that the interest of the students could be kept in mind. And I think it is worthwhile investing in technology. And I would also agree with Dr. Anand Samuel that going in for a proprietary items from the market, directly buying it, would be extremely expensive. The institutions can contribute to, by making their own software or contracting with a person and giving our inputs. And it should be customized to the institutional needs rather than buying it something which has been made for an international, facility. So investing in technology is never going to be a waste. It is only going to improve the student experience. And I would fully agree with Dr. Anand Samuel. Today's generation is not a chair-bound or a desk-bound generation. They are the generation on the move. They want information on the move. They want information and access to information 24/7, 365 days a year. Therefore, there's no escaping from quality investment into technology, and it is eminently feasible in that sense.
Thank you, sir. We'll go on to the next question. Does the NEP 2020 have provisions for suggesting statutory amendments in laws and bylaws governing various central universities?
See, when we go to implementation of national education policy, there will be many laws which will be changed. For example, even the establishment of HECI will be through a bill in the parliament. So there has to be an act of the parliament to establish HECI, and also to sort of dismantle maybe UGC, ICT, because they are all created by an act of parliament. So if you have to change those organizations, you again have to go to the parliament. But this was with regard to the overall infrastructure or architecture of the higher education. But when you talk of the universities, if you have noticed, there is a mention called Board of Governors, that every university will have a Board of Governors, and this is something very big, I think, which is not being taken up or which is not being discussed in most of the discussions on NEP, that in future, the universities which are good enough, which are having good accreditation and which can be given the power, they will be having a Board of Governors, and that Board of Governors will be the overarching body which will be governing the university, including the appointment of Vice Chancellor. That means in many central universities, the Vice Chancellors will be appointed by the Board of Governors rather than the central government or the state government, as far as the policy goes. And if this has to happen, obviously there have to be changes in the acts of the university, because right now the acts of the universities are not providing for this. But if these type of changes are required, the acts of the universities will have to be changed, either through an act of parliament if it is a central university, or through an act of state legislation if it is a state university.
Thank you, madam. I will go on to the next question. How it's helpful for people from rural areas? Dr. Vijay Kole, sir.
So if you look at the rural scenario today, we find less of infrastructure, for example, less number of schools, paucity of teachers teaching in those schools, less of connectivity, as a result of which there's a huge dropout in the rural areas. Now, the new education policy has taken quite a lot of interest in improving this rural situation. So they have suggested that a cluster of schools will be established in rural areas. There would be pool of good teachers that would be available as far as these clusters are concerned. So the drawback with reference to availability of teachers to a great extent can be removed. There, good connectivity would be provided. As far as the salary component of the rural teachers are concerned, that would be taken care of. They would be better trained, because the schools are going to have different kind of students. They will have come prepared right from their formative stages of education. Now, this particular scenario definitely will increase the admissions in the rural sector. Rural children will try to understand the importance of education, will also have gone through quite a lot of vocational education. Lokavidya will be an important component of their curriculum, as a result of which they will understand the importance of technology. They will also understand the importance of vocational technical education, and probably then they would be in a position to understand the value of education. It would increase the enrollment in the rural school sector. And this is going to be an overall big shot as far as the growth and development of the rural part of the country is concerned.
Thank you, sir. We'll go on to the next question. Teaching students in mother tongue will helpful to the students, sir?
So national education policy has given a lot of emphasis as far as multilingual education is concerned, providing education in local languages, mother tongue is concerned. The philosophy behind this is probably the students understand better when they are taught in their mother tongue. Today also in some of our universities, education is provided, both undergraduate education as well as postgraduate education in mother tongue. With this policy that is specified in national education policy, more and more universities and more programs will be available at the level of undergraduate as well as postgraduate level in local language or in mother tongue.
Thank you, sir. Since we are reaching 2 o'clock, there are so many other questions which has been asked by the participants. What we will do is we will pass on these questions through email to the panelists and try to get the answer. and send it to the participants who raised these questions.
Right.
For the concluding remarks, can I request our Vice Chancellor to give the concluding remarks?
Thank you, Ravi. I think we have had an excellent nearly 2.5 hours of intense discussion over the national education policy, which is a really forward-looking, student-centric type of a document, where if we really start thinking and implementing them in every one of our universities, I think we would be able to sort of succeed. And a lot of great questions have been asked by all the participants that really shows. I can imagine about 20 years back when a policy document like that is actually developed, hardly 0.5% or some amount of educationists really look at it and read it. Today we find that I'm sure almost all the participants who have participated have had a fairly good look at the policy because of also the technology. Today, if you open up the website, you can see every detail of the national education policy, which would not have been possible about 20 years back. So I think to the questions that have been raised in terms of technology, whether it's helping, it is already helping. And a lot of people can go through, and we have got excellent possibilities of knowing more details. And I'm very, very thankful to all the resource persons who have contributed their valuable time to be present here. In particular, Dr. Pankaj Mittal Madam. I'm sure she's very, very busy. Even today, she had to come off from some meetings and be part of this. And I'm really thankful to you for all the inputs. Of course, Dr. Anand Samuel sir from VIT. We all know that VIT is already an advanced developed institution. And I'm sure a close interaction between Ramachandra and VIT would help enhancing the technology involvement for health professions education. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Vijay Kole, past Vice Chancellor, but his ideas are all fresh, and he has been able to sort of also inculcate in all the participants how the new education policy will be able to help the country moving forward. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the whole program. My good friend, Dr. M.D. Venkatesh, I just asked him about 4 or 5 days whether he can actually participate in this, and he readily agreed. And how beautifully he brought the medical educational aspects, even though it was not separately given a chapter, he was able to inculcate many of the principles how it can be helped into the medical education and health professionals education. And I'm very, very thankful to you for the valuable time that you have given, sir, and even postponing some other program for the sake of this particular program. Thank you, sir. Of course, our Dr. S.P. Tyagarajan, sir, who is a pillar of strength here for all of us, and in fact, in providing impetus to actually take forward this initiative to discuss the national education policy. You would find that many healthcare universities may not even have taken up this challenge, because they would think this is considering general education, there is not much in it for us, why should we look at it? Things like that is the general comment that medical colleges usually offer. But sir has been instrumental in sort of stimulating our team in IQAC to actually participate in a national education policy type of a webinar. Thank you very much, sir, for all the inputs and guiding us on this particular program. And of course, Dr. Ravi and his team have been constantly working in terms of creating quite a lot of such programs. And we had an excellent webinar. I would like to thank the entire IQAC team for their effort, in particular Dr. Narasimhan, Dr. Chamundeswari, and all the team for actually seeing that without much of technical hitch, almost all the speakers and all the questions were answered fairly clearly, and all the inputs, we are already started getting quite a lot of feedback on our WhatsApp that how effective this has been going on. Thank you very much, and I'm sure there will be more opportunities for us to interact and take this type of webinars forward. Thank you very much. Thank you one and all. And I send my sincere thanks on behalf of our Chancellor and Pro-Chancellor as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we conclude,
Thank you very much for the.
I'd like to hand over the certificate of appreciation to the resource persons Dr. Pankaj Mittal, Lieutenant General Dr. M.D. Venkatesh,
Thank you.
and Dr. Vijay Kole, and Dr. Anand Samuel, which will be sent to their email. Next.
Thank you.
Before we conclude, I would like to thank the resource persons for organizing this webinar, Dr. Chamundiswari, Professor of Pharmacogenetics and and former HOD of Pharmacology, Dr. Narasimhan, Vice Principal, Allied Health Sciences and Professor of Physiotherapy, and Dr. Matanki, HOD of Mind Body Medicine and Life Sciences, and the secretarial team who helped us in this endeavor. Thank you very much for all your participation. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you, everybody. Wonderful, wonderful interacting with you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Dr. Anand Samuel and Dr. Vijay Kole. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Nicely done.